Everybody, and welcome to episode 66 of Bank to the Future Live. And this time, we have an all-star lineup of Bitcoin OGs. You probably recognize all of them, but today we're actually celebrating the launch of Infinite Fleet, which is a security token pitch that we just launched on BnkToTheFuture.com. And the lead investors include some of the people on here today. So we got Max and Stacy from Heisenberg Capital, and we got Charlie Lee, and we got Samson Mow here from who's the co-founder of the game, and you also might recognize him from Blockstream, and Charlie, obviously the creator of Litecoin. So today, I guess we'll start with Samson because I'd love to get an introduction to Infinite Fleet. Why don't you tell us like the background, how we got here? And I'm going to stop butchering the name at some point. We were laughing about the differences between how British and American people might pronounce it, so we might get a few of those. But why don't you give us a bit of a background on like the creation of this company, the security token, and just the overview?
Sure. Can you just say it one more time, the British way, Infinite Fleet?
Infinite Fleet.
No, the British way.
Infinite Fleet.
Yeah. Aluminium. All right. So Infinite Fleet is an MMO strategy game. The developer is Pixelmatic.
I'm going to stop you there. What's an MMO?
Massively multiplayer online game. So I think you could say they first came to prominence with EverQuest and World of Warcraft back in the day, but it's essentially a game where a lot of people, like hundreds or thousands, can play together online, and there's a big social element to it. So you form guilds, you do quests together, you kill dragons, and you talk and socialize.
Okay, great. And tying it into crypto, obviously you have a role at Blockstream, who developed the Liquid sidechain. Do you want to give us a bit of a background on how these things fit together and how you've combined these worlds?
Sure. So Infinite Fleet is an MMO strategy game. It's a sci-fi universe where people are commanding a fleet of spaceships. They can customize their own fleets. They can choose different types of ships. We have carriers, cannons, etc. And you go on quests or missions with your guildmates. And the elements that are crypto related, I guess they're twofold. First is the security token. So we have the EXO token, which is an STO or security token, which is on Bank to the Future now. And that is how we're raising capital. But for the game itself, we are launching a utility token called INF. And that's essentially the game currency, much like World of Warcraft Gold or Lineage Adena or EVE Online ISK. So that is a currency that the players themselves will earn by playing the game and doing social type activities with others. So you can't farm the currency by killing wolves or sheep or whatever. You actually have to go and take missions from the USF command, kind of like Starfleet command, and you have to take on massive world scale initiatives like conquering a planet or conquering a zone or things like that. And that's how you get INF, the crypto token. And this is all on the Liquid network. So EXO token is a security token built on top of Liquid Securities, which is a platform that lets you issue security tokens in Liquid. So all tokens in Liquid are just dumb tokens. But for Liquid Securities, we can control things like permissions, like who can trade it, lock up times, pay out dividends, all the good things that you would want in a security token. And the game currency is also in Liquid, and that derives some benefits. So in Liquid, we have confidential transactions, faster block times, and eventually someday we'll be able to create a Lightning network on top of a Liquid asset. But all of this is very interesting. So you can think of it as Infinite Fleet is commercializing a lot of Blockstream tech or leveraging a lot of Blockstream technology.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll get a quick intro. So to give background, Max and Stacy were telling me about this new Bitcoin liquid play that they'll be investing, and we've been trying to put this together for a while. Max, Stacy, why don't you share your involvement? Why are you excited about this particular deal?
Right. So everything's moving into outer space. Elon Musk and Richard Branson are moving into outer space. Um, Space is once again being explored in a big way. And this game, this multiplayer game, is really tapping into that phenomenon, I believe. And you combine it with Bitcoin, and it's really exciting because I think that I've always said Bitcoin raises people's consciousness in a lot of ways. And so to take that into a gaming experience, and then you have a token and you have a currency and you have an economy. And unlike other gaming platforms that have a unit of account, going all the way back to Second Life, I think they had Linden dollars or something like that. There's always this ability to create a parallel economy, and people live in that economy, and they have a thriving ecosystem in that economy. But with Bitcoin and crypto, it feeds back to terra firma, planet Earth, right? So there's an umbilical cord between Earth and this new extraterrestrial existence. And then the team led by Samson is what attracted me to it as an investor, because I know he's going to get it done, right? So I know that he's going to deliver stuff. I'm highly confident that this is going to get delivered. Pixelmatic, the company also behind it, has been doing great work. Blockstream's great. Blockstream's already in the satellite business. They're already streaming stuff over satellite. So I really think that they're on the cutting edge here. And a lot of people ask why, why is Bitcoin applicable to gaming? And, Simon, we've had this conversation a couple of times, and we've talked about gaming and Bitcoin, and there seems to be some ambivalence about it. But in my view, it just seems like it's such a natural fit, and it's such a huge market, and it's only going to grow bigger and bigger. So if they can get any piece of this market at all, it's going to be a huge play, in my opinion. So the team is great. I think the product is great. The art direction behind the game looks fabulous. It's got some fantastic art direction. The graphics and all that part of it really feels solid, really feels good. They've attracted some guy. In this business, like in the tech business or software business, it's hard to attract the top talent because they tend to be what motivates the top talent is hard to. They're not always just motivated by money, right? A lot of times they're motivated by just having a good experience. And I think Samson is a guy who attracts top talent across the board, just because he's somebody that attracts top talent. That's just the way it is with, like, whether Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, or you just attract people, right? And so I think, so you put it all together, and so we're investors, and looking forward to seeing where this goes. I think I'm really excited about it on a number of different fronts.
Yeah. I'll reiterate that as well. Like Max and I always, when you make investments in this sort of industry and in venture capital as well, there's a lot of losses and a few hits, and you hope the hits make up for everything. And you could either look at their, their books and their projections and all that stuff, or just invest in the team. And we always look at the team, the lead guy, whether, we hit it out of the ballpark with Kraken, for example, in Bitcoin Capital. And that was largely to do with Jesse. And it turned out that his integrity and his ideology did fit well with the whole Bitcoin space, and it's become a big success. My background is in Hollywood. I worked for Michael Phillips, who made Taxi Driver, Close Encounters, and The Sting, for which he won an Oscar for that. But Close Encounters, he was a fanatic on sci-fi. So we also made some other sci-fi films. But in Hollywood, the way it's again like a very hit or miss industry. You have this whole portfolio of various scripts you're working on, and say out of 20, one might hit. You might raise funding for one, but it's all about the team there as well. It's the gaming is part of the entertainment industry. They're about the same size. The Hollywood film and television industry and gaming are pretty much like near 150 billion globally a year. And you have to invest in the team, because that's all you have. In Hollywood, you have the stars, the directors, the cinematographer, the set designer, the overall designer of the look. And it's the same thing with gaming. Is you've got to invest in the story, the script writer, the character developments, the arcs, the all the economy, the gaming economy within it. So it's just a continuation of something I've been doing for too many decades.
Yeah. We'll switch over to Charlie then. So Charlie, I think Samson has been flexing his muscles and getting all Bitcoin OGs like Stacy and yourself to record their voices and stuff for this. So tell us what your role is in here. How did this come to be? I think you're on mute, Charlie.
Sorry about that. Supposedly there's a character in the game that is modeled after me, right? Samson can probably talk to you guys more about it. I actually don't know too much about the character. It'll be interesting to see what's going on. But maybe Samson can add some more comment about that.
Sure. So Charlie's character is called Charlemagne Lee, but he lets his close friends call him Charles. It's probably a descendant of Charlie because the game takes place way in the future. But this character is kind of modeled after Kakashi in Naruto. So he's kind of a mentor to Alexander Chase, the protagonist of the story. So he's a legendary pathfinder who's leading this kind of secret spy division in the game. And he's taking Chase under his wing to guide him and prepare him for war.
I actually didn't. He was modeled after Kakashi. Actually, I'm a big fan of the Naruto anime. I don't know if you know.
I didn't know that, but yeah, it works out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So one thing I thought would be particularly interesting, because everyone on this Zoom call would probably be very familiar with terms like colored coins and the history of trying to get assets on Bitcoin and various other blockchains that came around. It's probably cool. It must have been maybe seven or 8 years ago that everyone started talking about how Bitcoin would have an application outside of currency. And here we are 8 years later. Obviously, Ethereum captured a lot of the market for all of these tokens. But are we finally going to see this actually come to Bitcoin? Obviously, Samson, you've been pushing for that and pushing the barriers around that. Where do you think we are in terms of these different tokens being built upon Bitcoin?
So I think we're making a lot of progress. We just announced yesterday we added 8 new members to the Liquid network. So Liquid, just to refresh and recap, is a Bitcoin sidechain. It is a parallel blockchain to the Bitcoin blockchain that has no native currency. So you have to lock up Bitcoin on the main chain to unlock it in Liquid. It's a one-to-one peg. But we're making a lot of progress. We added INX, the exchange in the US that's going to IPO. We added CoinShares. We added Condensate Bank. We added a lot of players. So we're growing a lot. And I think there's a lot of traction to do liquid assets, which are kind of a better colored coin, if you will. They're just native to the blockchain, and we have a privacy component to it. So we have all the stable coins now. We have Liquid Tether. We have a JPY stablecoin from SettleNet. We have LCAT from Bull Bitcoin. And I think Lister Reserve just pushed out their AUD1, Australian dollar. So we're getting a lot of traction. And I think the beautiful thing about Liquid is it is a fork of Bitcoin, and it's compatible with Bitcoin. So some hardcore Bitcoiners will go and say, Liquid has nothing to do with Bitcoin. But I think it still does, because it's a directly compatible technology. You can do transactions that are similar. Liquid is compatible with all the hardware wallets and hopefully more of the software and light wallets too. But you can have similar transactions, similar security models and such.
Okay. And so where do you, it'd be good to get everyone's opinion on this. Where do you think Liquid and tokens fit in with Bitcoin adoption in general? We'll start with Charlie. You haven't said much. Maybe you could say some thoughts on that. I think you're on mute again.
Sorry about that. A little bit about the history. So originally there was the Mastercoin protocol that was built on top of Bitcoin. that the idea was that you can do like tokens and other stuff on top of Bitcoin, right? And that actually Tether originally was using the Omni protocol. But that doesn't really, that never really took off because these token transactions were fighting for this very precious blockchain space that Bitcoin transaction is fighting over with, right? So, and sending like money, sending Bitcoin is more valuable than sending tokens that may not be worth anything, right? So sending tokens, if you're paying like $1 for a transaction, it doesn't make any sense, right? But if you're sending like $1 million on Bitcoin network, it makes sense. So it's because of this like competition for this precious blockchain space, block space, tokens on the main chain doesn't actually make sense. So that's why something like a liquid sidechain makes a lot of sense, where you have all the tokens happening on a side chain, which doesn't compete for the same blockchain space as Bitcoin transactions. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more tokens on Liquid than like tokens on Bitcoin, and I think it's going to flourish. So I guess we'll see.
Okay, Max, Stacy, you got any thoughts on this whole tokenization on Bitcoin?
Well, I kind of feel like, this is just a natural evolution. It's already happened. The global financial system as we've known it for the past 5,000 years has been built on top of gold. Even the US dollar and that fiat system is essentially built on top of gold. And, it's just natural for the tokenization on top of gold 2.0, which is Bitcoin. And it makes perfect sense that people within this economy, would want to build an economy on top of it rather than go back into the other economy of the US dollar and gold. And then, so to build your own economy within and financial system within your new economy based on Bitcoin, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah, interesting. You speak about it like that. So you could, using the analogy further, fiat currency was originally a side chain of gold. It was, in the case of the US, it was 40% backed by gold at one stage. The Federal Reserve note. It wasn't until 71 that it actually became its own thing.
Yeah.
And so really drawing this analogy further, you got Bitcoin, you got side chains, then you've got, the whole premise behind Litecoin was silver to Bitcoin's gold. Charlie, is that still an analogy in the modern world? I think what's really funny is throughout history, you got all these different people that join the crypto industry at different stages. So, there's probably people that are around today that entered at the Ethereum stage, or maybe they're entering now at the DeFi stage, and they wouldn't know any of the history about silver to, the gold analogies and stuff. How do you see that analogy now?
I think it's still applicable, but it's kind of an easy way to explain Litecoin for someone to kind of grasp what it is. I mean, Litecoin is faster transactions and cheaper fees, and that's basically it. And it works well together with Bitcoin. I think that it still applies. So, but I mean, it's kind of like a marketing thing, right? It's people talk about it, it makes sense, and it helps kind of helps people understand it.
Yeah. Max, were you about to say something? I think I interrupted you.
Just follow up on what Stacy was saying. I mean, it does go back to the colored coin era, and it's just that with Bitcoin, everything is just slower. It just takes longer to do it. To the history of it, it's just a slower process, and so because people get frustrated, they jump in and they try to do quick projects and get things out, but this is what has been talked about for many years now. So we're just getting to that point. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It's time now to do this.
Yeah. And obviously for the video game, talk a bit about that, Samson. Like what is the importance of fast, cheap transactions when it comes to integrating with the gaming industry?
Well, I think a lot of things that Charlie was mentioning are when people are trying to do payments with color coins, and that's where you get a lot of friction, because for payments you need very high throughput. Alipay, WeChat, they can do hundreds of thousands a second at peak capacity. And there's no blockchain that will be able to do that and still be decentralized. That's the key thing. There's always going to be some trade-off. And I think that's where we need things like the Lightning Network. So for Infinite Fleet, with our utility token, it is we're going to launch first probably on a kind of exchange model. So you withdraw your INF tokens when you want to, but in-game trading on the auction house will be done off-chain. But that's why we're really bullish on Liquid, because we want to have a Lightning Network spun up for Infinite Fleet's currency. And with that, you can have real P2P trading, like directly between players, because there is no overhead, there's no blockchain to write to when they're just running it through a channel. And I think that's how you're going to be able to service several billion people. Like right now, there are 2.2 billion gamers. So if that keeps growing year over year, then we need to be able to serve them massively at scale.
Yeah. So I think probably everyone on this panel has used the word shitcoin before. It's become a very common phrase. Where do you think we are in the evolution of, we obviously had all these tokens being launched, but then they were kind of mixed with fundraising. In 2017, Bank to the Future actually got disrupted. No company in our space would issue equity, and no company and no investors wanted any equity when they could make 10 to 100x on a token really quickly. So we actually, didn't have any deals in 2017, but then regulation started to catch up. And then we've got all this, where we've got all this confusion now and these legacy issues where people think of, tokens trying to compete with Bitcoin when really they're more like stocks. But then if they're not securities, then how can they be stocks? Because you're trying to tell people it's not actually an investment, it's a token. But it seems like you've tried to really draw a line between, no, this is the token for investing and this is the token for actually transacting. Why don't you share some of your thoughts around where you think we are in this evolution now with security tokens, utility tokens, and is shitcoin even the right word here when we're going to have all these different tokens that have different use cases?
Paraphrase what Simon is asking. What Simon's saying is, which one or both of your tokens are shitcoins?
Oh man, Charlie. But
Charlemagne.
Okay. Charlemagne. But I think you're right, Simon. Like there's a lot of garbage out there, and a lot of them are these kind of ICOs that have no basis. And I think security tokens are the way to do it correctly. So there is some basis in law. It is a security. You're obviously trying to work together for some financial gain, but there's actually something behind that. And like to what Stacy was saying, if Bitcoin is the base layer for finance, like it's Gold 2.0, it's the base layer of money, then all of this stuff is really, it's just finance. So it's like, BFI. It's finance on top of Bitcoin.
Word.
Yeah. So, a security token is just a security. You have equities.
Did you make that up, Samson, or is that actually a phrase that I haven't caught up with yet?
I just made it up right now.
Okay.
BFI. So security tokens are just finance, right? If Bitcoin is just money, then security tokens are just finance. And I think there has been some change. So back in the day of the ICO, people just wanted to quickly raise money. And the security token ecosystem has actually evolved a lot. We have Reg A Plus in the US now. And for EXO token for Infinite Fleet, we're doing it under Luxembourg law. So on the legal side and regulatory side, we have had some advances that have made it a lot easier and less costly to go through and raise capital. And I think maybe people haven't fully understood that ecosystem yet, but it is getting less painful. It's still painful compared to just printing money in an ICO and not having to follow any regulation, right? But it is much more easier than it was several years ago. And I think we're going to start to see that. Also, the platforms haven't really gotten there. The venues haven't gotten there. So if you want to trade security tokens, where do you go? And I think all those pieces of the market are falling into place, and we're reaching that inflection point where we will see a lot of projects raising funding through security tokens.
Okay, so I think we got a question from the audience. So remember, if you do have a question, feel free to use the live chat. Famida's moderating and she'll pick out a question.
Cool. I had to get in there well quick before Simon just went off on one.
Yeah.
All right. So I think my mind just went to this one question that popped up after Simon mentioned shitcoin. That's such a good one. Okay, hang on 1 second. It is here somewhere. It was a question for Max from Ragnar Eriksson. Max has always said British ventures and projects are shit. Is Bank to the Future the exception?
Well, yeah, the thing about it is that Simon and I were both in London at the same time. And, Simon launched Bank to the Future, and, Simon left London and was in Hong Kong for a while. And because the environment there was not really great. And so I think that that's a pretty good, indication of what the environment is like. So I found the environment to be very difficult. Certainly, particularly 4 or 5 years ago, banks were shutting everything crypto down completely. And so it became virtually impossible, I found, to do stuff. So we were not in a position actually to relocate geographically to a different jurisdiction. Otherwise, we would have. But so I think it's not my favorite place to do business. I'll say that. In the U.S. it's a different story. It's a lot more entrepreneurial, but it doesn't mean that other people are not going to find it suitable for them and that they can't thrive in that environment. I'm sure that they can and they will. For me, it was very, very difficult.
Yeah, when we started in 2010, we started. It was 3 years of trying to get a model that could work in the UK. Eventually, we got the regulator to agree to the model. And then the restriction was we could only work with UK businesses and UK investors. At the time, we were trying to support the financial technology and crypto industry. The only company in UK at that time was blockchain.info, blockchain.com now, I guess. And so there was no real business model. So we actually ended up, as soon as we moved to Hong Kong, we found a regulator, the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, that was more receptive to the innovation at the time. We ended up funding most of the companies in crypto now. And that could have all been the UK. Now, recently we acquired a UK company to support regulations in the UK, but all of this could have been done in the UK. But instead we had to go to a more globally minded and then come back later to put together local regulations for UK. So it's an interesting question.
I've just got a quick side comment as well. I've just had to block a couple of trolls in the live chat. And this is one of the trolls' comments. And I think it would be funny if either of you guys could comment on this. Bitcoin was created by the central bankers that enslave you today. It is their scapegoat.
How do you answer those, Max and Stacey? You've got a lot of research on this topic. When you get those comments on YouTube about that it was created by the CIA to control everything, have you got a thought? I've never entertained it. Have you got a thought on that?
Well, I mean, it's open source. Anybody can read the code. Of course, what they're responding to is the fact that a lot of cryptography was developed from the NSA and CIA. So it was a joint venture for national security reasons. So certainly many of the early cryptographers, including Bill Barheit, from Abra, he was at the CIA. So that's where you had to learn cryptography. You had to work with them. And, Americans in general are conspiracy minded. I think sometimes it's a good thing because the government is always out to fuck you. So, okay, think of all the wild things they might do to you, and that could be it. But I think the evidence is clear that they do not control it. There's 10 years, almost 11 years now of track record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Blockstream controls it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who does?
Blockstream.
Oh,
All right.
I was looking at you when I said that.
Yeah, I'm a block. I have a spy. I'm one of the spies. No. So this, it's an interesting. There's so many angles to this. One of them, I have come to the conclusion that Bitcoin is playing with us, right? It's like it gets people to do strange things and to say strange things because it invites it. The protocol invites attacks because it makes it stronger, doesn't it? People think that they can dominate mining. They think they can launch a 51% attack. They think they can compete with a different coin, right? And all that does is increase the security, increase the hash rate, and increase dominance, right? So it's a very crafty piece of technology. I have said, in the past that I think it's actually self-aware. I'm not going to, I don't want to go down that path, but to get back to Infinite Fleet, Infinite Fleet is going off planet Earth. It's heading into outer space. And you've got some remarkable things happening out there, including the Pentagon just saying that they're releasing information about alien intelligence, an alien craft landing on planet Earth that they have, right? So this is where the future is, and Bitcoin is perfectly suited for this. I mean, how do we know that they're not alien intelligence coming for our Bitcoin that can't probe our seeds in our mind and steal our codes this way by mind control and mind reading, right? This is the kind of stuff that we have to think about in the 21st century. And that's why Infinite Fleet is on the cutting edge. I anticipate people actually joining Infinite Fleet to survive the alien onslaught and artificial intelligence onslaught coming in the next 2 to 3 years. It's a survival thing. That's why I got my fleet. I'm putting my fleet together because I got to go to war against AI bots. I got to survive in the 21st century. I got Stacy, we got our spaceship, we got Infinite Fleet, we got our tokens, we're heading into outer space. We're going to pass Jeff Bezos, we're going to pass Richard Branson. We're going further than anybody. We're going all the way to the end of the galaxy, baby.
All right.
Okay, so there's
a Satoshi is an alien theory. You guys have heard that one, right?
Well, Max believes it. I think he's the one that pushed that. But obviously when Max was saying like it controls your mind, that is further evidence of what I said, is that it's gold 2.0, is think back to the ancient Mayans and stuff like that, when they were like sacrificing people for like this gold, like when 5,000 years ago, when humans discovered gold, they did the same sort of thing. They started human sacrifices, building pyramids, doing crazy stuff. And, the same thing is happening to the minds of people who witness and look at gold 2.0, Bitcoin.
Gold fever, Bitcoin fever. It's mind changing, consciousness raising.
Yeah. Adam Bax likes to say Bitcoin is a mind virus.
Yes, that's totally. He would know.
Yeah.
He's a Blockstream spy.
He's a spy for Blockstream. He would know.
So Samson, you essentially, we got technology that was built by the CIA that was later corrupted by Blockstream that took over the code. And then you're building your application from Satoshi, who's an alien. And Blockstream is sending this all up in satellites. And now you're building your game on top of it. How do you respond to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe Satoshi also assassinated JFK. I believe that was, he was spotted back then.
Well, I think also, to the point is that people are going to start to move away from the origins of Bitcoin and everything that comes with it, and moving on to a different place, because it's now getting 10, 11 years into the project of Bitcoin, and it's achieved a certain critical mass in a lot of different ways, and it's having a huge impact on people's lives, and it's just we're just moving on to a different era now. It's just not, all of the fights and the squabbles from the early days, I think, are dead. A lot of those people either went insane, they're dead, or they're in the process of going crazy. And now we've got a new generation of people who've just picked this up as a tool that is useful. And the sidechain and liquid sidechain, in conjunction with Bitcoin in a gaming platform like Infinite Fleet, I think the potential here is huge. I just, I don't invest in anything. I like to invest in stuff that I think I'm going to make a fuckload of money. And this, this company is tapping into several huge honeypots of potential growth, right? You've got the crypto growth, Bitcoin growth, you've got gaming growth, you've got this growth of, let's call it higher consciousness or space exploration, which is, it's becoming very day-to-day experience, right? So if you can combine all that in a one gaming platform with a parallel economy and married it to a coin, a currency, I just see this thing getting huge. I just have a funny feeling about it. This is going to be huge.
Yeah, one of the things that we want to do is use Infinite Fleet as a sort of Trojan horse to expand, awareness about Bitcoin. So gamers are always on the cutting edge. They've been dabbling in virtual currencies for ages, and I think this is the way to access that and bring them to Bitcoin. So we will accept Bitcoin as a form of payment in the game. And INF tokens can be converted on an exchange to Bitcoin or other cryptos too. But it's just a way that we can get more people aware of what money is, what Bitcoin is, and hopefully send them down that rabbit hole.
Samson, how are you handling the economy of the in-game currency, the INF currency?
Right. So INF, we're trying to follow a bit of the Bitcoin model. So there's a finite number of the tokens. I think we're set to 1 billion, and that's it. So there will be an emission curve from playing the game to earn that utility token. But once that is out there, that's it. So there's only 1 billion INF.
Are you setting like the initial value amount for one INF?
No, because it's a utility token. The players, the market will decide if it has value and whatnot, but it's meant to be a real utility token. We're not selling it or anything. It's just going to be earned and emitted from the game.
Max also, by the way, has a patent on the very first in-game token, essentially, which was the Hollywood dollar in the Hollywood Stock Exchange.
That's right. So that going back to 1996, I have a patent on a digitally scarce token for a Hollywood Stock Exchange. So that's what got me interested in Bitcoin in 2011, was I was already in virtual currencies. And so I saw that this was solving, we try to create digital scarcity using my patent by a lot of outside forces that was highly, many layers and complicated. So with Bitcoin came around and it's like, well, it's coded, that scarcity is coded in on the base layer. I'm like, oh, that solves that problem. Okay, where do I get some? So yeah, Simon, we've chatted about this Infinite Fleet game and for a while now. And let me ask you this: on the platform Bank to the Future, I don't think they've done a gaming thing before. And talk to your investors about this, because help them understand why this is a huge opportunity from everything we've been talking about. Simon, I think personally, you're there in your Citadel now, the Simon Citadel. Commanding an intergalactic global banking behemoth, and you have the power to take this to the outer space, Simon. So tell the folks why this is going. Tell the people, Simon. Come on, let's hear it.
Yeah, well, the hardest part of this was obviously the structuring, because it's really, really innovative. So we haven't done a game on Bank to the Future before, or a gaming company. It's not something I know too much about. I'm more of a financial technology guy, but because there was the liquid play, we knew our investors would find this interesting. We knew that the team had a background in gaming, and also Samson is probably someone that has more experience around the Bitcoin and liquid and all that stuff than anyone else, having been involved in the company building the technology. The hard part was actually the structuring. So, Bank to the Future is an equity platform. Adam and the team worked with Samson and his team on putting together a structure to make this possible. So you're investing in equity, but then that equity is convertible into the security token on a one-to-one basis when the security token is issued. To be able to see where that actually goes and where the security token market's actually going. Obviously, Samson, through his connection with Blockstream, has an indication. He's listed off several of the exchanges that are building in that space. But then also just to have clearly that separation between the investment and the in-game currency, I think is a step forward in trying to remove some of the confusion around how people are thinking about these different digital assets. We look forward to seeing where that goes. I think Famida's also got an audience question.
Also a funny comment from someone. Danny Reyes. Charlie Lee is an alien and he is in his spaceship.
True. I see your background there.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm part of the Infinite Fleet.
He is, literally.
So Robert Wilson has asked, will Infinite Fleet game be available for PlayStation or Xbox, or is it just an online game only? How's it accessible?
Right. So right now it's going to be PC only. We're aiming for an alpha at the end of this year and beta next year. But the consoles are definitely on our target. We want to be as mass market as possible, also on mobile. So these are definitely things that we're aiming for down the road. We're building on top of Unity for the front end, so it should be relatively easy for us to port to all the different platforms. We're creating a total custom backend to support the game too. But just touching on some of the other points that Max and Stacy have mentioned, and Simon, like the team behind this game, they're real AAA developers. We've pulled from my network in the game industry. So most people that are watching this and know Bank the Future just know me from the crypto space, but I'm also from the game industry. I was at Relic, THQ, and Ubisoft for quite a number of years. And some of the guys that we've got are top caliber guys. We have guys that have worked on Nintendo franchises, EVE Online, Age of Empires 4. We pulled Jason Lee, who was the lead designer of Age of Empires 4, which is coming out from Microsoft. So, we're pulling heavy hitters from the industry to really build this thing.
Yeah. Maybe Charlie, you could talk a bit. You've got a lot of experience on the Lightning side as well. And Samson said that he wants to see these tokens, Lightning and Liquid, plugged together and stuff. Have you got any comments on where you think that's all going and what we might be able to see for these Lightning Liquid tokens in the future?
Yeah, the great thing about Liquid is you can build, like Samson said, you can build a Lightning network on top of Liquid. But I think we're still very early for that, right? So maybe when this game is out and people are actually using the INF tokens and transferring them, maybe it might make sense to build a Lightning network out for it. But it will definitely be a very new thing, and it'll be pretty cool. But we're still pretty early.
Yeah, Samson, could you talk a bit about user experience? Because obviously the big problem with Lightning, Liquid, these things right now is having to do something new, having to learn something new, and a user experience you might not necessarily be used to. So how is this going to actually work in a really usable way?
Right. So that's a really good question. And I think a lot of projects in the crypto space, especially ones trying to be, quote unquote, blockchain games, in my opinion, they're going about it the wrong way. They're trying to force people to use a token or use a blockchain or download something extraneous to the game itself. But for us, the core of the project of Infinite Fleet is building a AAA game. And the crypto component is completely optional. If you don't want to touch crypto, you can happily play the game without ever doing so. But we think that they'll dabble in it, they'll play with it, and eventually they'll jump into that pool. But we're not going to force anyone to set up a wallet or anything like that at the start. You just make your game account and start playing. And down the road, as the tech evolves and things become simpler and easier to use, we might try to sway them more in that direction on start or on game creation or game account creation. But we don't want to just say, hey, this is a crypto game, write down your 24-word seed. We want to ease them into it and be that Trojan horse and, get them into it without them actually knowing they're in it.
Yeah.
Well, what's important is that a lot of this like complexity needs to be abstracted away from the player, right? So in the back end, when you're transferring like INF tokens or using INF tokens to buy stuff or whatever you're doing, it may be on the Liquid blockchain, or it will be on the Liquid blockchain, but the user doesn't care, right? It's just happening in the background. The client, the game client, is just doing all that for them, right?
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing. You're not trying to like throw it in their face that all this is happening on the blockchain, because they don't need to know unless they really care about it.
But even on the Bitcoin wallet side, like the end goal is ultimately, you don't have to choose if I'm using Bitcoin main chain or Lightning. You just say, I want to make a transaction, and the wallet will make the decision for you, which makes more sense. Which route do I go? And taking that to another level is submerging that in the game itself, where they're just transacting. They don't have to care about what the medium is.
Can I jump in? Yeah, earlier you actually mentioned, Samson, it's going to be available for PCs. Does that mean that you're excluding Mac people?
No, it'll be on, when I say PC, I mean desktop.
Okay, cool.
Old habit.
It's like a different language, like Mac versus PC people. So like Android and Mac products, basically.
Mac and Windows-based products.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. So actually, I have a question. So earlier, before we went live, you mentioned that there's a character in there that Stacy has done a voiceover for.
Yeah, so Stacy is going to be in trailer 2. So right now, if you search the internet, we have one trailer. It's called Dearest Mila. That was an early concept trailer we made. We actually blended in anime and 3D. But for trailer 2, we've made this direction. Our director of art, Wayne, decided we're going full 3D. So you guys will see. We're going to tease the new trailer and show you guys what it looks like, but it's reminiscent of Ghost in the Shell SAC 2045. So it looks really, really cool. But Stacy is going to be one of the captains that comes to rescue Chase. And I think I've said too much already, but she's in there. She's doing a cameo.
I've done voiceover in the past for a BBC series called Pope Town. And it was an animated series where the Pope was an American with dementia. So I played this demented Pope. I did the guide track. I worked with Matt Lucas, who was the voice of it. But I I was like the pilot director of it. And then I would do like, I am the Pope, I am the Pope. That was the voice that had it. And so I had already done a lot of work in the the sound studio, and it was so I was familiar with that.
Yeah, you're really a pro. So
it brought back my old BBC days.
Yeah, like we have a Whale Panda. He does one line, and another of our investors, Henry Wu, they also have a short line. But it took a lot of takes for them to get something good. But when I sent yours over to the team, they're like, "Wow, is she professional?" It's like perfect.
I actually had done like weeks and weeks of work with Matt Lucas in the studio. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I guess that's the definition of a strategic investor, right? Normally you'd have to pay Stacy to do that as a professional, but now Stacy's investing in your company, and then you have to tap into them for the success of the company. Cool. So actually talk a bit about the security tokens. So what do you think is it? So it's a profit sharing security token. Help us understand a bit about the structure. So we had to kind of shoehorn a security token into our model. Initially you're investing in equity in a company, but then they're one-to-one swappable for the security token once it's actually been issued. But do you imagine this security token to be something that as more and more exchanges integrate? So you talked about, is it INX, the one that's doing an IPO and applying for a security token exchange at the license at the moment? Do you imagine that these eventually are going to be like more liquid tradable tokens and there'll be some growth or appreciation, or do you think it's actually going to be the revenue share that investors should be focused on?
It's hard to say. I mean, for Infinite Fleet, if we can just capture 0.5% of the MMO market, we'll be generating 125 million annual revenue, and the profit share for the EXO token is 20%. So, it should be lucrative. But the liquidity,
that's 20% on profits rather than revenue, right?
Yeah, on profits. But the whole model for Exordium, the company that's publishing Infinite Fleet, is it's supposed to be a video game publisher. So right now it's publishing one game, but as we do our fundraising and generate revenue from Infinite Fleet itself, we hope to license other games and operate other games around the world. So that it should be a cash generating machine, much like Ubisoft or any other publisher in the space. But I think liquidity is also a big piece. We just have not seen very liquid markets for security tokens yet, but I think we are going to get there. It's just a matter of time as these exchanges come up. I think T0 is also making a lot of strides on this front too, and we're talking to them about handling secondary markets for the US. But it's all coming. It's just a matter of being in the position where we're the first major product or project that is doing a security token. Hopefully. Imagine if it's the first time the stock market is coming out and you're the only major stock out there. That's a good thing.
Yeah, so it should still be thought of as a long-term investment, like a private equity deal.
Yeah.
The market needs time to mature to develop the security token liquidity, and also the company needs time to mature to develop a profit. So it should be thought of as a long-term investment rather than a quick pump and dump token that's going to suddenly appear on an exchange. And you hope in an IEO or something that it's going to be 10 times higher and you're trying to get out as fast as possible.
Yeah, I don't think those things are sustainable. I think building real value is what is going to be sustainable and bring credibility to this crypto space.
Sure. Famida's got something, I think.
Yeah, Simon. So who's this accessible for?
Who's the what, sorry?
Who's this accessible for? Because...
in terms of investors?
Yes, because there are questions about US investors.
Yeah, we can't, we didn't open this one up to US investors because Samson's actually only given a small allocation to the Bank to the Future investors because most of his contacts like Adam Back, Charlie Lee, Max Stacy, Heisenberg Capital have taken allocations. And we've got a $250,000 allocation. And the process for making something, so we've got it pretty tied up for the process of offering equity in the US. We've got our US broker dealer partner integrated into the platform. But at the moment, if you're actually just issuing a security token, you would have to actually go to the SEC. Our broker would have to go to the SEC, tell them everything about what you're doing. And just really for raising that last $250,000 allocation is too cost prohibitive at this stage to do that. So unfortunately, this is a non-US offering. It's just the stage where the SEC and FINRA are at the moment that you have to tell if you're doing something. If we're doing straight equity, they get it. But if you're doing something like a security token, you're going to have to get them to sign off on that process, and it's just it's too cost prohibitive to do that. So it's a non-US and it's qualifying investors. So when you sign up to BnkToTheFuture.com. We have a unique onboarding process depending on your jurisdiction to comply with your local securities laws. So if you're in the UK, then you would register with our local regulated entity in the UK. And if not, you'd be going via our Cayman Island securities business. And we've built those custom onboarding processes. So as a rule of thumb, the platform won't let you invest unless you actually qualify. So just go through the process. And if you get to the investment page, then it might be that you've self-certified as a qualifying investor, or there might be just an additional requirement in your country.
So how does a US investor get involved?
They can't through Bank to the Future. Samson, is there anything else? Is it completely non-US offering or?
Well, we're getting ready to do another raise. So as you mentioned, this is just a small allocation just to give the people at Bank to the Future some access. But we will be doing another raise down the road. And that one will have our Reg A filing done. And then that will open it up to all the US investors. We still need to find a broker dealer that will handle the initial sale in the US, but we're making some progress on that front. But the goal is that we will have this worldwide offering plus a US offering.
Okay. Yeah. So this initial allocation, not US, but the goal is that they're going to do a Reg A offering in the future. Would that be on the same terms or slightly different terms?
Probably slightly different.
Okay. So this is almost like a pre-sale. You're getting in earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there more questions for me there?
Yeah, actually, what's everyone's favorite sci-fi?
Favorite sci-fi?
Sci-fi movie, I guess, or TV show.
Recently, my favorite sci-fi is The Expanse. I think it's a pretty cool show. But my favorite sci-fi TV series of all time would have to be Firefly. I don't know if you guys seen that one.
Yeah, not a fan of Firefly.
Really?
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, the one before that.
Oh yeah, the one before that. Yeah.
There was a great sci-fi series that got canceled like after the third season, and then so many fans demanded it return. It was only a few years ago.
The Expanse, right?
No.
Was it? No, I don't think
Was it called Sense8?
it might. Did the Expanse get canceled and then picked up by somebody else? Another network?
The Expanse is on Netflix now, I think.
Yeah, we've watched The Expanse, but there was another series that was really.
Sci-fi gets canceled a lot.
Yeah. Well, sci-fi like comedy is hard to do. It's hard to create a real world like that. I worked on a lot of sci-fi stuff with Michael Phillips, but it's hard because there's so many inputs into any content creation, like a film or television series or a game. So it could go wrong from any one aspect of it. The delivery from the actors, the director fucks up, the cinematographer isn't great. The world creation, there are guys, I forget the name of it. It's more of a new industry now, but they create worlds. They create an entire look of an entire film and a TV series. So they're like architects of the design. Above set design. So, there's so many things that could go wrong in a sci-fi film. Like if it just looks one thing cheesy and it doesn't work. Classic is
if they don't spend enough money on the CGI, it can look cheesy and then it's just like totally bomb because of that.
Though early Star Trek is still my favorite. My mom used to make me watch that. Like there would be like 48-hour specials like all weekend long, showing them back to back. And I'd be up at like 4 a.m. My mom's like, "You have to watch this. You have to watch it. It's really important." Like,
you're talking about the original Star Trek series, right?
Yeah, with
like
William
Kirk.
Shatner.
Yeah. With Shatcoin.
Shatcoin.
Yeah, Star Trek used to come on and then right after was Bonanza.
Yeah.
In the 1960s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they watched it on TV, and I think it was on Saturday nights.
Yeah, I think for me it's Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie.
Yeah, it was weird.
Well, for me, it's the next generation, right? We're in the next generation kind of.
Well, that's when we grew up.
Yeah.
Oh, why is no one talking about X-Files?
Oh no,
X-Files.
We did already. They created Bitcoin, right?
All right, Samson, we're on the hour now. So I'm going to ask you one final question and everyone can give a closing thought. I had my question and it's gone from my head now. It was an important one. I'm going to return to it. Why doesn't everyone give like a closing? Oh, I have got it now. I remember now. So the question was, is this security token just associated with one game? Or is it connected to more further games in the future, like a company that's going to produce lots of games, or is it just a play in the success of this particular game?
Well, right now we're only talking about the one game. We don't want to overpromise, but the whole idea is leveraging the tech that we've built. So the whole infinite fleet framework can be applied to other games. Like we could license Battlestar Galactica, we could license Star Trek, but this whole kind of directed narrative, procedurally generated universe, combat tech we've built up can be applied in many places. And if you look at Ubisoft, they do the same thing. Assassin's Creed spawned like Watch Dogs and other series. It's the same kind of open world tech. And we hope to do the same and with other IPs and other games down the road.
So would you say it could, I mean, right now you're just focused on the game, but the technology could be scalable to other people that want to replicate similar models and they could use the technology?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, so but the focus now is just make this one a success. If you make it a success, then others will want to follow.
Yeah, there's a whole platform play we want to go into too. So kind of like a Steam platform that will leverage the INF token to buy other games potentially. But we don't want to oversell because it's going to get expectations set too high. But if you look at something like Steam, right, that's a really good platform. But they didn't launch Steam first. They launched all their games first, Counter-Strike, Half-Life, and built up a following because they made great games and they put them on their platform and then their platform got traction. So that's kind of the angle I would approach it from. First, make the great game that's going to draw the crowd. Like Stacey said, it's a hit-driven business. It's a huge undertaking in and of itself to build the world and make a top-tier game. So we're going to focus on that for now.
Okay, so we'll just go around for a final comment from everybody on their thoughts, if it hasn't been covered already, on Bitcoin, gaming, and infinite fleet. So why don't we start with you, Max?
Right. Well, Bitcoin meets gaming. Great team. This is a great game. I'm looking forward to this, really. I think this is a pretty good call. It covered a lot of ground, and this is going to be exciting. I'm strapping in. I think this is going to be a great one.
I'm really excited to hear there might be some spin-offs. I'm hoping to see a series about Stacy, who's a Finnish goddess who rides her reindeer, flies her reindeer through outer space with her Sisu. Okay, her reindeer's named Sisu, and so that's what I'm hoping for now that I've seen this.
I'm writing that down. I'm taking
writing
notes.
it down. Okay.
Yeah.
Charlie, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that you need to actually create a great game, right? So that's why Samsung's focused on like hiring the best developers and designers to create the best game. And then the blockchain part is just, it makes the game better, right? A lot of like companies fail because they try to like make blockchain the most important thing, and then their product's not actually good, right? So it's important to actually make a good product, and then the blockchain part actually makes things better.
And Samson, what's the final thing you'd like to leave everybody with as a thought?
Yeah, subscribe to our newsletter, BnkToTheFuture.com. Follow us on Twitter @InfiniteFleet. And yeah, we're always updating about what's happening. We're very open about the whole game development process. And we welcome discussions. Join our Discord. Our team is actively in Discord chatting with people. But yeah, this is your chance to get involved with the major game development project.
Okay, and speaking of community, if you've got further questions, if you're watching the recording of this, then you can head over to BnkToTheFuture.com. You can click on the Infinite Fleet pitch. There's an investor zone and a discussion forum. We've got a community of over 90,000 qualifying investors now, and you can ask as many questions as you choose, and some of the other team members can jump in there and answer questions. A few new features just while we're here as well. We've just relaunched multi-currency bank transfer. So if anyone's trying to put some funds on Bank to the Future to invest in Infinite Fleet, now you can actually send any currency through bank wire as well as Bitcoin. Samsung was really insistent that we only accept fiat and Bitcoin for this. So there's no Ethereum option. You can only invest with Bitcoin, but if you've got some fiat money and you want to onboard into crypto, you can send any currency that's supported by SWIFT, whether it's Korean won, pounds, euros, whatever you want, we'll automatically convert those up into US dollars, and then you can transfer those over and invest in the deal. So that's a new feature that we've just launched. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Samson. And thank you, Famida, for picking out questions. And we'll see you over on the discussion forum if you have any questions. That's going to do it. Let me do my Keiser report. That's going to do it for another episode of Bank to the Future Live. I tell you what, Max, can you give us the outro for Bank to the Future Live?
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Bank to the Future Live with Simon Dixon and a full cast of superstars. Until next time, bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
That was
I actually did say, I told Simon, you can do Litecoin too.